me as part of the handover.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Comcast NBCUniversal Lift Labs Accelerator for Enterprise AI Applicant Info Session. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Bo Bergman. I'm the Director of Innovation and Partnerships at Venture Fuel, and I'm joined today by Luke Butler, Executive Director of Startup Engagement at Comcast NBCUniversal. Today, we'll be going through what the accelerator looks like, what's included if you are accepted into the accelerator. We'll also highlight some areas from the first program that we ran earlier this year. And then we'll be joined by an alumni founder for a live Q&A session. And then we'll open it up to Q&A from the audience. So this is a great opportunity for you all to ask questions, get those answered live and in real time. And then, we'll hand it over to Luke Butler to share more about the accelerator and what you all can expect.
Thank you, Bo, and we'll keep this part short because we really want to hear from you and answer your questions. I'm here representing our incredible Lift Labs team. We'll share more about them in a few minutes, but there's a great team of us that get to do this work. So what is Lift Labs? Lift Labs exists to develop partnerships between startups building in areas that are relevant to our business and our business, which includes the core Comcast cable and connectivity company, NBCUniversal, film studios, theme parks, Comcast Business, Comcast Spectacor, Sky in Europe. There's a really vast array of businesses that fall under the Comcast umbrella. And our job is really to build those partnerships so that we can learn together, learn about and gain insights from the startup founders that know these areas the best in emerging trends and technologies that are important to us. And also, we think help the startups on their path by partnering with them, working with them, and connecting them to other potential customers. And so the Lift Labs Accelerator is one of the ways that we do that. And this is not a traditional accelerator. We've done more traditional accelerators in the past. And coming into this year, we evolved the concept and the program significantly to really focus on areas where we think we can be most impactful to startup founders. A couple areas where it's different. Each time, each accelerator program we run, we pick a theme. So we concentrate on a particular category, a particular technology, and really bring all of the relevant experts within our companies and business units to the program to match them with the startups that are selected to participate. It's a pretty short program. It's 6 weeks. 2 of them are in person. The rest is virtual. And it's very, very focused. We don't, this is not an accelerator to help you, to tell you how you go and build a business or raise money. You can get that stuff elsewhere. We're really focused on helping you understand what is Comcast looking for in these areas and how can we work together. The goal of the program is to build partnerships between our business and yours, and that is really the focus of the time that we spend together and beyond. There's no equity required. We don't invest up front in the companies that come through the program, which means we're open to a much broader range of stages of companies. We had companies in our last cohort that had not yet raised a seed round, and we had companies that had raised a Series A over $100 million. So there's a broad range of stages that are available for this program, and we target and tailor the programming for each of the companies that are selected to participate. We make a lot of connections inside of our own business, but we also have a much broader network. So part of the goal of the program is to invite other corporations in where we think they might be interested and relevant to you, and make those connections so that we can create more opportunities with you. And I think the last point is probably the most important. It's a short 6-week program, but this is really about building a long-term relationship between us and your company. If you're selected, it's because we think that what you're doing is unique and really important and relevant to our business. And so we've built a portfolio now of companies that we support and continue to work with and meet regularly with and look for new opportunities for. So the 6 weeks, think of that as kind of the kickoff to this longer term relationship between our companies. Go to the next slide, Bo. I'll talk about kind of what you get. So following on from that, dedicated support from the Lift Labs team. We have an incredible team of people that help with navigating and understanding Comcast, getting through all of the legal and procurement and privacy and security checks that are necessary when you're working with a big corporation, advising you on how best to approach business units or meetings, and being alongside you as you go through those partnerships, and we help scope and build out those proofs of concept and pilots and ultimately commercial deals between us and you. And again, that extends way beyond the lifetime of the program. You get direct access to decision makers that are relevant to what you're building. So we have people from across the business at the highest levels that really want to get involved in this accelerator. They see this as a vehicle for them to uncover the next big thing, the startups that are really doing interesting things in these emerging technologies. And so our job is to get you to the right people quickly and to structure those engagements so that we make progress as fast as we can. Throughout the program, there are some programming pieces that we build in. We invite experts on things like enterprise sales, on working with the media, on storytelling. We try and keep it quite focused so that it's not, you're not overwhelmed with sessions during the week. Really, the focus should be on meeting with the business units at Comcast to drive traction and move things along. But we do bring in some really exciting and interesting people. And as part of that, we also provide guidance and support with marketing. We have we work with Venture Fuel to provide PR support for all the companies in the portfolio. So we're always looking for opportunities, both through our own channels and through traditional PR, to get the story out and the word out about what you're doing. And we provide a bit of funding to support the travel and accommodation. There are weeks when we ask that you be in Philadelphia at our headquarters, so we provide a stipend to support some of that. I mentioned this a bit earlier. We ran our first version of this program earlier this year, and it was fantastic. We had just an incredible group of 8 companies. We had hundreds of applications from around the world, and we very quickly selected 8 companies that we thought would be the best fit for a program which was focused on generative AI. And so we had companies that were relevant to the entertainment side of the business with NBCUniversal, that were relevant to our own customer experience teams, cybersecurity teams, video analytics teams. So there was a really good spread of companies that we had in this first cohort. 100% of them, all 8, either kind of completed or agreed upon a pilot proof of concept during the course of the program. And we're now working with each of those teams to extend those relationships and hopefully move them towards longer term commercial deals. But the teams that on our side that got to work with the startups, I think were across the board just incredibly impressed with the caliber of the founders and what the companies are doing. So we're hopeful that there's a lot of really impactful relationships that have been built there. As I said, we connected the teams with hundreds of people across the business. For those that were relevant, we make investor connections. We and Venture Fuel have a very broad network of investors at different stages. And so if you're in the program and you're looking to raise or want to meet with investors, including our own investment team at Comcast Ventures, we curate and make those connections. And the same is true on the other enterprise side. We brought in people from Google and IBM and Samsung and Oracle and a whole host of others to make those connections too. So why enterprise AI? Well, we're recruiting right now for a program that will start in October. When we ran, obviously AI has been a massive focus, particularly this year, but it's nothing new for us and for major corporations. This has been around for a long time, and we have expert teams that are using AI across a whole range of different functions. But there has been a renewed focus on the importance of the technology this year, and our company, like many others, have really been looking closely at what are the areas of the business where we think artificial intelligence can make the biggest impact, can help us solve the biggest problems. And so this theme is really an evolution of the theme that we had earlier in the year, and it broadens it out to be areas that we think can help, where AI can help solve at scale big problems or create really interesting new opportunities. So think about things like software development, knowledge management, data provisioning, cybersecurity, customer experience. There's a whole host of categories that we're interested in. Don't be limited by these. If you're building something that you think is at the enterprise or could be at the enterprise scale and is solving a very common issue for large companies, please apply. Please ask us questions in this session, and we're happy to look at a broad range of use cases when it comes to this technology. Our criteria, our question is going to be, are you solving something really big for us? Are you going after a really big opportunity? And we also are really interested in you, the founder, and your background and expertise, and can we work together? I'll hand it over to go over details around the upcoming program.
Yeah, thank you, Luke. So as Luke mentioned, we are actively recruiting startups to apply. Applications are currently open now until August 27th, so 10 days left. If you are considering applying, please, we do urge you to apply sooner than later. We review applications on a rolling basis and schedule intake calls with high interest applicants. So please do get those applications in. We'll then move into the selection committee, screening and selection committee, where a select number of applicants will have the opportunity to meet with business unit leaders and essentially give them their pitch and have questions asked of them. That starts the week of September 11th. And then we'll notify the companies who are selected for this cohort on the week of September 25th. Some key dates for the program, as Luke mentioned, the first week is in person in Philadelphia. That kicks off on October 16th. And then the last week is also in Philadelphia at the Comcast Technology Center. And this last week really culminates in what we call our Enterprise AI Summit. So it's an opportunity to share what you've been building, what you've learned throughout the program to the Comcast internal audience and external ecosystem partners. And as Luke mentioned, you'll have access to an incredible team dedicated to ensuring your success within Comcast, but also outside of Comcast. We have a number of folks in different areas on the Lift Labs team, like marketing, PR, pilot success. And the Lift Labs team is joined by our team at Venture Fuel. We're a partner in building and running this accelerator. And as Luke mentioned, we have an extensive network and we help make connections to different enterprise opportunities, as well as VC connections where those are relevant. So now I'd like to bring up one of our alumni, Andre Papancha, the CEO and Chief Product Officer at NLX. Andre, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Hey, Bo. Hi, Luke. And hi, everyone, whoever's watching.
So, Andre, let's start. Can you tell us more about NLX and your experience having gone through this program earlier this year?
We're a technology company headquartered in New York City, and we specialize in driving customer experience automation, especially for large enterprises. So if you think in terms of, let's say, maybe calling an airline or chatting with Comcast or talking to your bank, we are the technology that can automate those types of experiences.
That's great. And Can you share a bit more about the experience you had going through the program earlier this year?
Absolutely. Well, for one, it's just been transformational in terms of how we think about enterprise engagement. We've always longed as a startup company selling into the enterprise for like that ideal engagement where, you know, a big business has a need, has a budget, wants to do something, and then we meet them with like innovative technology, and then we go. And that never really happens in most instances, and it kind of did going through the accelerator and meeting with the different business units. It's just been phenomenal to meet all the different people, but it's such an immersive environment. I feel every time we met with the business unit interested, it wasn't just like one or two people on the call. Routinely, there were 5 to 10, if sometimes even more. We've got to do like multi-day in-person workshops with some teams and whatnot. So it just felt like we were being cared to, and we got very real interest from the different business units in ways that, frankly, I've been through other accelerators in the past, but it typically feels like it's just meant to be a nurturing process for like some very early stage companies. And picking up from what Luke mentioned a little bit earlier, in the cohort that we were part of, we had companies ranging from literally some folks just starting off with their idea, and that's directly applicable to some of the core Comcast business units, all the way to, I think, one of the companies in world is the best funded and or the most valuable venture funded like gaming startup in the space, right? So like such a broad spectrum of companies. So it was just really an amazing experience meeting a bunch of really cool people and working on real problems. That's probably what else can you hope for as a tiny startup trying to grow through the process.
That's great. And Andre, going off of the variety of stages that were in your cohort, what advice would you give, or what would you say to a startup that might think, hey, like we're a Series A, Series B stage company, we feel like we're too far along for an accelerator?
Well, for one, there's no, other than time commitment, there's no equity component. You get the travel stipend, you get to meet a lot of amazing people. But most of all, if you're a company if Comcast and its subsidiaries is part of your target customer list, there's absolutely no reason to skip the program, because the thing is that, like as I mentioned, there were companies in the cohort that have raised drastically more amounts of money than we have, and have had a different journey. Some of them were repeat founders, etc. But the nature and the attributes of the program make it super compelling regardless of the company stage. And even for the very early ones, getting a Fortune, 30 something like company to on top of which you can sort of benchmark your product and ideas and stress test them and get feedback and get to sometimes like a more robust MVP. Like that's a phenomenal opportunity that, otherwise you'd have to spend lots of money and time in the market. Whereas in this case, you compress it in just a few short weeks. So highly encourage anyone, regardless of stage, to apply.
Andre, I want to jump in there because I also think that your experience during the program was illustrative of kind of the mutual benefit here. Like we had great people on our side that kind of came to work with NLX, but you and the team really pushed them as much as they pushed you. I mean, it wasn't like, here's our product and trying to sell it in. It's let's think collectively about this broader issue and how do we work together to go and really do some interesting things. And we, I think, learn as much, if not more, from you and the team as you learned from us. And so I think that's part of the nature of the program as well. It's about thinking about it in terms of that long-term relationship. to that point, can you touch a little bit about what's happened since the end of the program? How are things continued, and where do you see things going?
Certainly. Well, in full transparency, by the way, we were so shocked by the pace of the business units, because I think at some point we were going into a long weekend, and I don't know, maybe it was like a Thursday or a Friday, and we kind of talked about some things, and then on the Tuesday following that long weekend, we just get this amazing list of requirements and deck and stuff. Clearly someone put effort, so we're like, okay, let's match that pace. So then we basically turn around with equal pace after. So anyways, first of all, I mean, forget about the end of the program. Like shortly within the program, we started procurement with Comcast, which was not in our bingo cards. Was definitely a wonderful surprise. And right now, other than having as many daily meetings or weekly meetings, we have touch points with different Comcast team members and LiftLabs team members on a regular basis. So it doesn't feel that the program ended, which is kind of nice. We're in conversations with, I didn't count last, but 3, 4, or even 5 like different business units are trying to use us, both external facing and internal and whatnot. So it literally feels like there was an initial onboarding into the program, and the program continues, which I'm guessing is by design, but definitely don't feel disconnected at all from any of the teams, which is phenomenal.
Awesome. Thank you, Andre. I think we'll open it up to live Q&A from the audience. Please drop your comments or questions into the chat boxes on the stream. We do have a number of questions coming in. Luke, we'll start with essentially how early is too early? Is pre-product too early?
Generally, yes. I mean, I think because the intent of the program, and I think the real benefit comes in us being able to test and use and think about how we would implement and scale something. That's not to say that it's not an option. We had a company, as Andre referenced, a company that was very early in its life cycle and was able to connect with experts at Universal to really help her think about who are the end users of this, how should I build it in order to really address some key needs. So there's definitely value there. I think our bias is towards those that have a product that we can actually go and use and test and give feedback on and ultimately kind of implement.
Great. We have another question coming in. This is kind of, we have 2 questions around the same topic. What will we be impacted if we're not in a Comcast area? And how many non-US startups are we planning to accept?
Certainly not impacted if you're not in a Comcast area. I mean, we're looking for startups from around the world. It was the last cohort that we had was relatively unusual in that the majority of the companies were from the US. We had one company that was from the UK, and everyone else was from across the United States. Normally, when we run programs, we have companies from France and Israel and Ukraine, and so certainly no barrier. And we also have businesses in different parts of the world. Sky has a big presence, obviously, in the UK and in Italy. So we're looking for the best founders wherever they come from.
That's great. Andre, you might be able to answer this one. So what is the time commitment? Is this a full-time engagement during the full 6 weeks?
That's a good question. The time you put sort of is linked to the value you'll get out. It's meant to be immersive, but it's meant to be immersive in the sense that, again, going back to what my earlier point was, if you see Comcast and any of its subsidiaries as prospective customers, in the six weeks, the more time you put, the more likely you are to end up with some form of an engagement. And correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but in during this last cohort, like everyone scored at least a pilot, right, by the end of the engagement, which is pretty phenomenal. So yeah, it's really a matter of how much time you want to commit to it, but it is involved, but it's involved in a cool way, to be honest. You get to visit different like Comcast areas. Like you'll go to, I mean, at least we went to Universal's in studios in California, New York, trips to Philly, and you get to meet so many different people and interesting backgrounds and business problems and whatnot. It's truly worth it. And 6 weeks flies by so fast. And it's not like you have to commit your entire team, right? It's typically just like one or two key executives.
Yeah, that's an important point. And going off that, we thought NLX did this quite well. They actually split time between some of their key executives to help manage the time commitment. So you can absolutely do that. We just ask that an executive level type person is involved to help keep those pilots and conversations moving forward. But Andre, you bring up a good point. Luke, we talked about opportunities to potentially meet other parts of the Comcast business. Obviously, we did certain things for Program 1, but can you talk more about what that looks like?
Yeah, I mean, look, regardless of kind of where we go, we'll have people from across the business that are participating in the program. Depending on the makeup of the cohort, the companies that are selected, we'll think about, is it valuable and impactful to actually go to some other parts of the business. Andre mentioned that we took the group to meet with executives at Universal during the last program because it was a pretty relevant topic for them. We have really engaged partners at Sky in London. So, to the extent that the use cases we're addressing are things that are particularly important to them, that might be something that we look to do in this upcoming program. But we'll really think about how can we be most impactful to the companies that are in the cohort. But really, nothing is off the table given the breadth and scale of the business.
Yeah, that's great. Another question from the audience. I think this is a very important point. If chosen, what kind of equity would the company be giving up? Board seats, and would Comcast come in on follow-on rounds?
So no equity given up if chosen for the program. There's no investment from Comcast. There's no equity that we receive. We have funds ourselves if we choose to invest in a company. Comcast Ventures is obviously active in looking at companies that are relevant to big enterprises like ours. So if we think it's mutually beneficial, we'd have a conversation about investing in any of the companies that come through the program. But it would be if it's valuable to you. It's not a prerequisite or a component of the program.
Yeah, as part of the program, everyone got to meet with the Comcast Ventures team, and everyone's at different stages, different appetite for taking investment or not, and vice versa. But you'll definitely get the opportunity to talk to the venture team.
Luke, are we only looking for startups focused on B2B solutions, or are we open to B2C as well?
I think for this particular program, it's largely going to be B2B solutions, given that the sorts of use cases that we're looking at are really the kind of the inside the house ones. Of course, they impact our customers. And so if we can improve things on our side to improve that experience, then that's ultimately the goal. But I think the assumption is more B2B than B2C this time.
Yeah, that's great. Another question from the audience. So we are a revenue generating company. We currently do not have AI integrated into our product, but we plan to. Does not having AI built in yet mean it's a disqualifier for us?
I think for this particular program, probably. This is part of a much broader company-wide initiative to really look more closely at this technology and think about the ways that it can be applied. And so part of the process that we go through is really understanding what is the technology underlying what you're doing, to what extent is it proprietary and unique, to what extent is it complementary of what we've already built ourselves. So For this one, I think AI has to be a pretty central component of what you're doing.
That's great. Luke, we mentioned a bit about external experts coming in to help in certain areas. One of the questions from the audience is around the top 3 goals. Specifically, it's a question in the application. What are your top 3 goals in participating in the program? The question is, are we looking for a short list of goals or something with more explanation at that point?
I think as much as you can give us will help us shape the program for you. I mentioned that, these are relatively small cohorts. We had 8 companies the last time. We looked for 6 to 8 in each cohort, which really allows us to tailor the approach for each participant. There's not a lot. Andre talked, I think, really well about the time commitment and how to get the most out of the program. There's not a lot of mandatory everyone all together kind of general sessions. It really is focused on you and your business. So, I mean, I assume everybody, one of the goals will be, I want to work with Comcast. People might be interested in fundraising or getting ready to raise money at the end of the program. They might have particular needs around marketing and PR. And so wherever you are at your stage, if you articulate what you're looking to get out of it, that helps us design the program and connect you with the best people on our side so that you get the most out of it.
Yeah. Andre, you mentioned the 6 weeks being kind of like a kickoff or a start to your relationship with Comcast. And Luke, you can help answer this as well. What does support look like after the program?
It's multifaceted, which is great. One, there's the venture field team that, Bo, you're part of, and you help facilitate a lot of the program. And then there's Lift Labs, which Luke and a handful of others are part of as well. That's on the Comcast side. There's checkpoints with both, and effectively, especially from the Lift Lab standpoint, there's constant help navigating. I mean, we're in procurement right now. Procurement, no matter the ideals, it takes a little bit of time, right? So, but it felt very accelerated for us to date, and that's in large part thanks to the team and the team members here on the screen and a few of the other supporting team members. It's basically the support comes in everything from finding the right stakeholders within the different business units, all the way to just kind of like streamlining procurement. Like they have dedicated people who just know how to help startup companies navigate procurement, right? Because when going through procurement of any company of Comcast size is a very difficult process, no matter the situation. And having like a Sherpa that understands the ins and outs within this company and its subsidiaries is invaluable. So again, if you're interested in working with any of these companies and the just conglomerate, like you couldn't help for a better partner to do so. And then I don't know that we exerted all of the options of support that we have. I know Bo and I and team synced up the other day, just unrelated, and they were asking for like, hey, do you need more investor support or this and that? And at the moment we didn't, but when we will, we absolutely will reach out, right? So it's just been really great it feels like you guys are all part of our team. We're at the beginning of the program, but that hasn't gone away, which is always a really nice feeling. Our team expanded by a number of really great people. So,
and just thank you for that, Andre. Just to underline it, maybe I'm the one that happens to be here today, but our team is just incredible. My colleague Laura is amazing at really helping companies think through what the best approach to take is, how to really address what the underlying strategic needs of the business are, and can help kind of companies reposition how they approach discussions. Katie is on our team who leads really business development and driving that traction. She's incredible at that too. She's also entirely fearless in getting you in front of the right people. She just drives things forwards. And then we have marketing, incredible marketing support through Isa and Taikia. So there's really a whole effort that goes to support you, and it's not just an email intro and kind of sending you off to the teams. It's really helping you think about, all right, you're going to meet with this team. Here's what they're really interested in. Here are the personalities in the room. Here are some of the politics to be aware of, and this is how best to approach it. And then we do all the follow up to help keep things moving through. So, as Andre mentioned, it's a real team approach.
Thank you. Another question from the audience is around kind of these sub-focus areas that you mentioned within enterprise AI. We mentioned synthetic data. Can you elaborate a little bit on what kind of synthetic data and what that use case kind of outlines?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the broader point has to do with, in order for AI to be truly impactful, it has to be sitting on top of well-organized, clean, provisioned data. So being I guess solutions that are good at aggregating, understanding, provisioning, deciding levels of access that different people get, creating data sets to test on and try things with. So really broadly, anything in that category is something that is interesting, as it's really a foundation for everything else that we might want to go and do.
Yeah, that's helpful. One other thing that we mentioned, Luke, was around the selection process. That's obviously quickly approaching. Can you share more about what that looks like?
Yeah, I mean, it not only is it quickly approaching, it's happening now in some instances. We're all spending a lot of time. I've met with some incredible founders already this week that are doing really interesting things. So I would encourage people, get your applications in, because we review them in real time. And so really the goal of this process is for us to understand what you're doing, what's unique about it, if we think we can be helpful, and then bring in the right people from the business who are the subject matter experts who can really take a look. Once we get into September, we're going to schedule sessions with a core group of executives at our business that represent broadly all of the sorts of use cases that we're looking at. And we'll invite the top companies in to come and do a presentation, answer some questions, and then we'll quite quickly come to a point of view around who we think the best mix of companies to include in the cohort will be. So we look to make decisions by kind of mid to late September, so that we can start the process of getting you onboarded, and really start the process of the work with the business units. In many cases, for our first program this year, the scoping of pilots and the discussions about how might we work together actually took place before the first day of the program. So we kind of want to get into that as quickly as possible. So we'll move quickly. We would just ask that you try and do the same. We think we've put in place some fairly basic agreements that govern the relationship between us. There's nothing really in there that's particularly complex. So just as we're moving quickly, we ask the companies to do that too, so that we can get to the real work as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Another question we have, Andre, you might be able to help answer a little bit of this, is around the expectation of working with Comcast. Is the expectation that you will actually co-develop a solution, or are we looking for companies that are pretty much ready to offer, like, hey, this is a solution to solve your challenge or problem?
I mean, I think Luke touched on this a little bit earlier. We had like a wide array of companies at different stages within our cohort. Some had an idea and a target, and they had something, right? They had the base to go off of, but they were able to refine it during the program with Comcast. In our case, we have a pretty mature product, but at the same time, getting invaluable feedback and feature requests and ideation, like naturally contributes to it too. Again, it's you're faced with real world problems and business units and people who are looking to actually drive solutions. But in that process, inadvertently, you end up co-developing, or like, well, by co-developing, you own the stuff, right? Like we haven't felt an iota of like Comcast trying to like steal IP or anything, so let's not even go there. But basically, they're giving you, they're immersing, the different business units will immerse with you and give you invaluable knowledge and input that will help you refine your product. Is it a requirement? No, but it will likely happen, and that's a good thing, right? That's what you want. Otherwise, it kind of feels like an internship program where some companies doing charity work and hiring a couple people, and that's it. It's not that. It's very immersive.
Yeah. To build on that point, for better or worse, in a big corporation, there's lots of paperwork that govern all of these different relationships, and so when you're selected to the program, you sign a participation agreement. Basically outlines the remit of the program. Once you start getting into working with the business units, there are NDAs and evaluation agreements and things that we put in place. We want to be very careful about who owns what, what's the scope of the project, what are we trying to do. So everything gets governed by agreements that then follow on as the work develops.
Yeah. Thank you, Luke and Andre. We only have a couple minutes left, so may I ask one or two more questions, and then we'll share kind of what the next steps look like for you all joining us today. One question was around the pilots and POCs that were developed in Program 1. Luke, are those, is the expectation that those will be paid or ultimately get to a paid point?
Sometimes they are. It somewhat depends on the pilot itself and what we're doing. Sometimes they are early on because the company has to go away and do significant work in order to meet certain requirements that we're asking for. The goal is to get them into kind of paid situations as quickly as possible. The advice that we give to people is always just be honest with us particularly on the Lift Labs team. We have a kind of a unique role where we sit in between the business unit and yourselves, and so we can give some honest feedback about how to approach something. I wouldn't look at a pilot as a way to generate revenue. I would think about, are there costs associated with it on your team, and how do we mitigate those? And our team plays a role in that alongside the business unit. So we can support those sorts of things. But again, it's going to depend on the particular circumstances.
And I think I can add a little bit of contour there. And by the way, when you think of pilot, don't necessarily, like if it ends up being like a 6 to 12 month engagement, right? Like that's a different thing, right? You should probably aim to charge for it. In our case, we specifically, because our product allows us to be agile, we don't want to slow down any aspect of the process, because any amount that we could have charged for a pilot is dwarfed in comparison with what an overall engagement with Comcast would look like, right? So we made a very conscious choice to like, we're not going to charge anything, just tell what you want, let us get you to the result as fast as possible, so we can get you to a quick decision, even if it's a no, so we don't waste each other's time, right? So there are practical reasons why you might not want to do that, but also, cognizant of the fact that not everyone's product or space or target market allows for quick cycles like that.
That's great. Thank you, Andre. I'm going to go one last question. I think we can answer it quickly. Are there 2 programs per year generally? When is the next projected program, and what does that focus area look like?
So yes, the plan is that there'll be 2 programs each year. The next one will likely be in the spring, probably sometime in the April-May time frame in terms of when it would kick off. We don't know yet what the next theme will be. We'll see how this one goes. We'll continue to talk with executives across the business around what are the pressing areas of need, and then we'll put together a program around it. But we'll probably start that process towards the end of this year.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for your questions. Andre, thank you for joining us today. In terms of next steps, we urge you to apply. You can find more information and the application link at lift.comcast.com/accelerator. If you do have questions, please reach out to me. It's bo@venturefuel.net, or some of my other teammates, Sarah at venturefuel.net, or Michelle. And just a reminder, the application window does close in 10 days, August 27th. We look forward to speaking with you and learning more about your companies, but thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and we hope you found this very helpful in your process. So thanks again. We'll see you all soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.